Yeah, that's nice.
What's up everybody, it's REV. Today we're going to be making some more upgrades to the 66 C10. You've probably seen me do a couple upgrades to it already if you've been following my build progress at all. Everything from the LS swap, the paint, the custom interior, on and on and on. Well, of those upgrades, one of the biggest things that's affected it is the upgrades to the front suspension. They've increased the braking ability, they've increased ride and handling, and to do that we swapped over a 71-72 style front crossmember onto the 66 frame. This gave us disc brakes, this gave us power steering, and this gave us the addition of more serviceable parts, easier to find parts and parts of higher design quality with the serviceable bushings. You can even go to the 73 style and get the replaceable rubber bushings for the A-arms if you choose to, but the 71-72 style serviceable metal bushing still works fine. Well, in addition to all this, I also added a tilt column. So to get those to work together, I ended up buying some double D shaft and some universal joints. I didn't make some, Flaming River makes them. They're proven functional components. What they don't tell you is that when you add these steering shafts and stuff, you really should brace them. If you have a long steering shaft, if you have a steering shaft at a really peculiar angle, if you have a weird combination of steering shafts or joints, you really need to add support bearings so the steering shaft doesn't flop all over the place. Well, when we did mine, I didn't add a steering support bearing, and thusly, the steering shaft would have a tendency to bounce around a little bit when you'd hit a big bump. We thought about adding a steering damper, we've upgraded the shocks and everything, but the biggest thing is, it needs a steering support bearing. So today, finally, we're going to fab a bracket and go ahead and put a steering support bearing in the 66 C10. And to make it better, I'm making the bracket out of leftover parts from the same build that comes stock on every 66 C10. So anybody that wants to go ahead and do this has the option to do so. It only costs a few dollars. The part itself only costs around $10. I'm going to get the truck up in the air. Why don't you guys follow me down there? We'll take a look at what's going on.
With the truck already in the air, I can go ahead and pull off the wheel to gain access to the steering shaft. And so here you can see what we're working with. The parts we're mainly worried about are the original steering shaft, which is bolted to the rag joint, this double D universal joint, and the intermediate shaft, which goes up to the steering column. Because of the flexible joints in a multi-piece steering system, the steering shaft itself can come under side-to-side flexion, causing it to bounce back and forth under load. To handle this problem, we need to install a steering support bearing. I'm using this one from AllStar Performance. It's an oversized Heim joint with a .757 ID, designed to slip over 3/4 inch double D shafts commonly used on steering systems. I can start by removing all the hardware that holds the steering shaft to the universal joint. Then I can remove the hardware and disconnect the rag joint from the other end. With that end free, I can go ahead and disconnect the steering shaft from the universal joint. You may need to persuade it with a little extra force if it's been on there for a while. Then slip the Heim over the free end of the shaft and reinstall it. With the Heim in place, I can go ahead and mock up where I want it to fit. I want to get the best alignment on the steering shaft while maintaining a full ability to rotate. Because of the location of the engine perches from the LS swap, I need to make a bracket that's more of a standoff, bolting behind the perches but maintaining the ideal position for the Heim. I'm using an existing frame hole marked with this bolt. This would have been the original location of the engine perches with the 6-cylinder. I'm going to fab the bracket from the leftover rear bumper support. Remove the bend and focus on the straight portion of bracket. We'll be cutting this into 3 distinct pieces. Discard the flared centerpiece, putting the 2 remaining pieces parallel. I weld the seam of the pieces. Then, using trial and error, I trim the bracket down to fit flush against the frame. And finally, drilling the hole to mount the Heim. So here's a quick montage of what that looks like. Boxing the end of the rear support is optional, but good for strength. I finish with primer and paint to protect it. Let the bracket dry, and it's time to install. I first set the Heim into the bracket, and then put the bracket to the frame. And I can pre-adjust the angle and height of the Heim. A washer and nylock go onto the 14mm bolt holding the bracket to the frame, and torque it down into place with a 14mm socket. With the bracket secure, we can move on to adjusting the final height and angle of the shaft. Locking it into place with the jam nut. The shaft is fully supported, yet rotates freely.
So that's it. We made the bracket, we installed the support bearing, we adjusted the support bearing, and now there is virtually no play anywhere in the steering shaft. It moves smoothly left to right. It feels very precise on the wheel, precise by mid-70s Chevy standards, understand. And overall, it's a big improvement. The best part is that we used some leftover parts, and we only had to spend about $10 or so on the support bearing itself. So the whole thing cost maybe $12 worth of materials and a welder. But if you don't have one of those, that's not my problem. Get real, get serious, buy a welder. But that being said, it was quick to make, it was cheap to make, it installed easily, and what more can I say? Thank you guys for watching me here on RevJ. As always, if there's anything you want to see, let me know. Drop it in the comments, send me a message, whatever. Thanks for watching. We'll see you next time, guys.